guys have all been around for a very long time. You're the furniture almost, especially Julia. I don't know this church without you, Julia. So do you want to know? I arm wrestled Julia like the first probably 3 weeks of coming to church, and I was an apprentice, so I was probably in the peak of my strength, right? And we were at Macca's, and Julia's like, "I'll arm wrestle you," and I'm this mum, what a loser. And so we go on the bench, and then someone says go, and I was like, and she definitely nearly beat me. But I just remember Julia just walking around with babies. Yeah. This is all Julia did, and she just had these pythons like you wouldn't believe. But she was a silent killer. All right, we're wasting time. Stop distracting me, JT. All right, James Todd. Since you're the eldest here, we should start with you. Sure. What are some of the early memories when you think about the Rock?
Early memories is pretty good. I was thinking about that through the week. And back at the original chapel where Hank and Trudy are now, back there to the early days, Heidi was meeting with some of these crazy women at Blossom, making new friends. I see Trudy laughing, and Renee, another one. Sorry, I shouldn't start naming people, but there are a couple of the crazier ones. And we decided to start coming along and having a look, maybe finding a new home. And now I've visited a lot of churches. I work for Scripture Union as a Northwest rep, and I think in the last 10 years, I would challenge anyone to be in more churches than perhaps I've done over that 10 years as a visitor. Now, they had, and this is a pretty creative place, this church I came into on a Sunday had flipping goldfish in bowls on the tables. Now, I have yet to go to another church that has ever had a goldfish on not just one, numerous goldfish around the room. So I thought, wow, this is a different sort of place. So that was a crazy, crazy memory. And but yeah, and Hank would be double teaming. He'd be switching the knobs. He openly says he didn't know what he was doing, playing with knobs up the back of church. And then he would cut through and working on this little barbecue. And fun times. Little kids play equipment out on the grass, and a little single shooter wooden toilet out in the back. So yeah, good fun times.
Was it at youth or church that we got someone to eat one of them goldfishes? Was that at youth? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Never mind. That never happened.
I got into so much trouble at school about that.
That never happened. Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about. All right, Julia. What's some of your early memories?
A couple of things. I just remembered one then. When we first started, we thought we wanted a band, of course, because the church has got to have a band. And part of our outreach strategy, we thought, well, I don't know, we just advertised in the newspaper for musicians. Yeah. And we thought we didn't really care whether they were Christians or not. We just welcomed them in. We just needed musicians. And so a girl that actually became my best friend, she saw the ad in the paper and she said to her husband, you should get down there. And so they just fronted up. Yeah. And how crazy is that? Yeah. Anyway, who does that? Who advertises in the newspaper for a church band? And one other thing I shared this morning was I remember I loved working bees. I love working with people. It's so good. We were painting down the back, Janet and I was feeling a bit overwhelmed with all the babies under my arms, a bit like Danielle. It was about in a month when she has that baby, it was about 3 months ahead of my stage. So anyway, babes in arms. I felt like I was useless and couldn't do anything and whatever. And Janet just said to me, "You're doing a great job. It's, get your perspective right here. It doesn't matter what you haven't done in terms of painting on the wall. You've just been in the right place, doing what matters is being a mum and doing that." So that was just awesome. Yeah.
That's cool. I remember Louise reminded me when I came to the first service, and I'd never been to church really before. And when Kids Rock, because Kids Rock was still happening then, when it was time for the kids to leave, all the young adults left as well. But I didn't know they were the leaders. I didn't realise that. So I was like, well, I suppose I'm going this way. And me and my brother walked out to the kids' ministry and made crowns with them. And you had to introduce yourself with a letter of an animal, and I was T for tiger, clearly, because I'm pretty
You're
type.
very ferocious,
Yeah.
I can tell. That's right.
Okay. So JR, what about you, mate?
So I heard of the Rock. We moved to South Rihanna from Deloraine, and we were there for 4 months and made an absolutely awesome group of friends in church there, and we're quite sad to move. And I was quite busy, and Katrina went to church at the Baptist church, and they said, "Oh, well, we'd love to have you." This was Julia's dad at the time. We had a 6-month-old infant, and we'd love to have you, but you might be better suited down to the Rock. So I didn't make it next Sunday, and Katrina went to the Rock, and said it was great. So third Sunday come along, I came, and foolish enough, we had round tables at the time, and I sat in the front corner, and Shania was 6 months old, bumped her head halfway through the message on the table, screaming like somebody shocked her. And then I'm so self-conscious, trying to console her. You can't get up and move because there's not that many people there. And I just remember at the end, John came up to me and said, it's no big deal. It's great having kids around. I mean, if there weren't tears, there wouldn't be kids, so that's fine. And then as the kids got older, we still did round tables for years and years, and we had food on them all, which I quite like because food is great. But watching my children and many other children from the community would, as the singing was happening, they would all clean up the good things on the tables type thing. So no, it was absolutely awesome, Taylor.
Yeah, that's so cool. I forgot you moved from there. You were already here. That's cool. We'll go back with you, John, and go back the other way. So why did you guys hang around? Like, what was the reason to keep coming back?
Multifold. So Katrina and I are from pretty different backgrounds. I grew up Catholic, and Katrina was Protestant, and then we met at a very evangelical, happy-clappy church. and then we went to, then when we got married, we went to Open Brethren. And for us, what we really loved about the Rock, having experienced several different churches, is the authenticity, Taylor, of the members, but also from the front. Was absolutely awesome. And then not having any family and knowing anybody, the church has become our family, both in being with us in the hard times and celebrating the awesome times as well.
Yeah. So. That's awesome. Good stuff, John. What about you, Julia? What kept you guys hanging around?
I had lived in, 20 or 30 houses before I was 20 and been to lots of churches, and I just thought I was never going to live in a house long enough or be in a church long enough to see kids grow up. And so I really just wanted a place to belong. We were going to church in Burnie, and I just really wanted to fellowship locally with people. So I was really excited when church was starting here and we could be part of that. And then I've come to have language around it. I've realised that Jesus actually lived in community with the Father and Son, Father and Spirit, and so he loves community and he wants us to live in community. And I don't know, Livy said it so well this morning. She's like, you could go again. Anyway, she said, this is what you say, Mum, and she says it way better than me. She said, you just got to choose somewhere and get yourself sorted and get there. It's not that you're ever going to find a perfect community to be part of. You just have to get right down in there and be part of it. And that our values are caught and not taught. I can say all the things that I want, but if I'm not doing the thing that I actually value, then who's ever going to know what it is that I value? And so I was thinking every kid here, my own kids included, is the testimony to our community. Totally. Every kid that has encountered Jesus and is oriented to Jesus is because of community. In isolation, that never would have happened.
Totally. Yeah, no, that's so great. I mean, I remember, like you talking about kids growing up, I remember Olivia, it took me like a genuine 2 years before she'd let me even like get close to her, because I loved babies. And now look at them, like they're so much older. Like even thinking about some of the guys that are just running youth. Zach Butler, where's Mr. Butler? I remember him coming to youth in like grade 6, 7.
Annoying.
Yeah, he was.
No way. Gorgeous.
He was, so gorgeous. He used to kick my car because the alarm would go off on it. And now he's like one of my absolute best mates. So no, it's been so cool seeing them grow up. What about you, Mr. T?
The two questions are so intertwined, the memories and the rest of it. The other part of my memories was seeing these couple of young people on that first day at the old church up front, giving the message and some testimony stuff, and it was your lovely wife, and you or Ben, I never quite, and you, yeah, and they seem like young kids to me, yeah. And I just thought, wow, and it was a bit sort of, it needed a bit of polish, but I thought, wow, this is a community that I want to be part of, and I don't get these impressions, sort of spiritual connections that often, but I used to drive past that church when it was empty, the old Baptist church, and I felt very strongly, I was going over with some lovely people, like my mother and father-in-law over here, to the Baptist church in Montello towards Burnie Way, but I felt that as a family we would be going to a church in Penguin, because we lived in Penguin, wanted to be part of that community, especially raising a family. And God impressed upon me as we'd drive past that, the church was vacant at the time, and I thought it was a message that we would end up with the Baptist in Penguin. Made sense. And little did I know that there was actually raising up a church out of that site that I now feel so connected with and continue to be. So it is family, yeah.
Yeah, that's great, JT. I do remember that. We preached about Narnia, and hopefully I've gotten a bit better since then.